a social entrepreneur from Turkey, but I live in Lausanne for the last 10 years. So a kind of two different countries experience today we want to talk about a bit more. And my organization is actually on the education part, which we will be giving the kids science training programs in Turkey. So the main objective is to provide the society, starting from kids, but then parents and the teachers, about the scientific literacy. So we have been preparing lots of different science, hands-on science programs for the overall society. And the topics will like around climate change and the sustainability. For the last 15 years, we were able to reach 400,000 kids in Turkey. So that is a little bit of the background. Then, of course, the organization, when we built 15 years ago, the idea of social entrepreneurship was not well developed in Turkey, and we need to discover a lot about the concepts, ideas, procedures, systems, etc. And we learned a lot during those years as a developing country, and the challenges and the whole different ideas coming through the new economy, the social economy, or the planet, or the people, and how do you call it? There are lots of different definitions and ideas. And in Turkey, in my home country, where you experience those challenges in a different way. And I had a chance afterwards when in Switzerland, that in a developed country or very, very advanced country, the challenges are fairly different as well. And my organization in Turkey is also a member of Catalyst 2030 network. Last year we joined and we opened the Turkish chapter, and we are actively discussing a lot of topics. And a couple of months ago, we have started talking to Mikita and Susanna whether maybe we should open a Swiss chapter as well, considering the whole challenges are fairly the same, but in the different versions in Switzerland as well. So this meeting was started between us to be discussed a couple of months ago, and then we decided, by using the opportunity of this week, we decided to make a meeting with the whole parties who might be interested in discussing the possibility and opportunity to build a network to strengthen the social entrepreneurship in Switzerland. That is the whole idea. And we will have some specific time to discuss today about this one. Camila and Mikita, we will be hosting the session all together, and thank you very much for coming again. Camila, floor is yours.
Yes. Thank you, Yunus, for your introduction, and we are very, very happy to see so many of you. It's great to know that there is an interest in creating and developing this Swiss network. It's very important, actually, because sometimes you might feel alone with certain challenges, and I think one of the benefits of having such network is that we can go through certain things together and support each other. I'm Camilla Chok, and I'm the founder of Ali Muradova organization. For a few years now, I'm half Polish, half from Dagestan, and I arrived to Geneva 4 years ago now. My French is still developing, so it's in a process of being part of the community in Geneva. But yes, so my organization is actually working with different communities, specifically with indigenous communities in different parts. We are working with people in in Pakistan, Fiji, and Australia at the moment. This is kind of the communities that we work with, and specifically we are interested in how we can transform the knowledge that indigenous communities were building for many, many years into the development that we are trying to do now. So how can we include this wisdom into SDGs, and how we can make sure that these peoples are also included into decision-making processes in different parts, and how can we maybe mix and be, for example, here in Switzerland, how can we get inspired from all these techniques and all these wisdoms in terms of nature or society or building inclusivity. And yes, and we are part of Catalyst for I think 2 years now. And from the very beginning, why it was important for us to join is to belong to belong to the community of different NGOs who try to do good things, and where you can also get a support and maybe share certain challenges or also get opportunities. And for example, if you would start a project in another country and you are looking for partners, Catalyst is also something that it can also bring you, is the kind of colleagues and friends all around the world, to make the impact maybe more wide, and also to understand how what you're doing now can reflect in other parts and get inspired from it. So this is one of the benefits, I guess, what we can see as Al Muradov organization of part of being of Catalyst. So yes, that's it. So thank you so much for being here, and during the whole process, not only during this 1 hour, but later on. We always stay in touch, and if there's anything that would be required from your side, we are here to support and help and to kind of guide you through the process. And also, I guess what is important about Catalyst and building this kind of network, of course, is an opportunity. And as Al Muradova, we are looking for some opportunities to maybe strengthen the impact that we want to do. And I guess I think in Polish we say bataha, which is, for the wolf, wolves are always together. And I think that's the strength that they have. And Catalyst is kind of a bataha. So we hope that you're going to be the wolves in our company. So thanks for joining. And keep talking for you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Yunus, and thank you, Camila, as well, for actually leading all this and helping organizing this event. So my name is Mikita Pobihun, and I'm based in Kyiv, Ukraine, and I'm a deep fan of Switzerland, to be honest, because I think we have, for this moment, the most diverse community of members in Switzerland. So, as was mentioned, I'm a part of the secretariat, as you can see from the picture, of Catalyst2030. We are basically the supporting structure of this global Catalyst network. I joined Catalyst almost 3 years ago, and it has been an incredible journey for me, and I think for all the members that have been since then, and for the ones that have joined us in the process, of course. So for those who are new to Catalyst, it's a pleasure, really, for us to share with you a little bit about Catalyst today, and also to invite you to be part of this community and this network, and to co-create the Switzerland chapter together with us. So, as we mentioned, basically today we would like to share with you a little bit about Catalyst. If you want to use the chat option and also share about your name, your organization, and maybe the city that you are calling from, please feel free to use the chat option. And although I think that every single space, I would say, of Catalyst is definitely a moment of connection. So although if you want to already share your LinkedIn details, some of the other people in the call might be interested in connecting with you. So feel free to utilize this opportunity and to share your LinkedIn page as well. So today we will share with you basic information about Catalyst and about our structural units, local chapters, because we have some country, regional, and city chapters across the globe, and we will share some of the initial thoughts that the members in Switzerland, including Camila and Yunus, have been thinking about in relation to the opportunity to launch the Switzerland chapter. But first thing first, of course, we want to do some introductions, although, as we were already doing, and then we will get back to our main business. So Yunus, please continue with the explanation of our next move and the round of intros.
Yeah. So today's agenda, actually, we planned a brief agenda for you. We will meet. We have around 20 attendees, so which means that we can stay in the main room and we can talk about our organizations. First of all, a meeting section. Then Mikita will talk about a bit more the local chapter. If we decide to build one in Switzerland, what would be the meaning in the Catalyst 2030 network? What is local chapter and the mission of the chapters? Then we will have a look a bit to the Switzerland. We have gathered some information about the social entrepreneurship based on some previous research reports done by very reputable institutions, and we will try to understand what kind of ecosystem is here in Switzerland. Then together with you, of course, we want to talk about the challenges here. Of course, we have lots of challenges around the globe, but every local area or country has its own issues and challenges. So we want to focus a bit. And then on the last session, we want to have, if we want to build one on the Switzerland chapter, what would be the priorities or the activities that we should be following? So that is going to be the agenda of today, briefly. And then let's introduce ourselves then, right, Nikita? We can skip to the introduction session, Linda, I guess. Yes. Can we...
Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Now the floor is with the participants. Who wants to start? Just to introduce your name, your organization, your activities. Some of the participants could be outside of Switzerland into this meeting, so you can link it to your own work in your own country or region, then maybe link to the Switzerland as well.
No worries, you can start first. Who's first is good. There's a special offer for joining.
I can start first if there's really a special offer.
Yes, you're the first one, so yeah, go ahead.
Great special
You will
offer.
get a golden membership, that's for sure.
A golden membership, fantastic. So my name is Karen Chet, and I am the founder of International Bridges to Justice. So we focus on early access to a lawyer for people who are detained in countries throughout the world. So we have bigger projects in some countries. One of our bigger projects now is in Myanmar, in Syria, Burundi, and as many of you know, when you don't have a lawyer, many people are arbitrarily detained and tortured, and having a lawyer can really stop a lot of due process rights violations. So based in Switzerland, but really the core of our work is at a country level, has been, and at the same time, we've been looking more and more at how we can greater support it in Switzerland using what's here in Switzerland. So we started first being very sort of not so connected to many of the systems within Switzerland and another stage looking at it, which is also why I was very interested and excited when I saw Catalyst looking at Switzerland, and I thought I would jump into the meeting, even if I can't stay with the whole time. And it's great to see your smiles and to be welcomed into this fantastic energy of Catalyst. Thank you. Don't forget my special prize.
You got it, Karen, don't worry. Yes.
Thank you, Karen, for sharing things. And it sounds like a great work you're doing. If you would like, you can push also for others the website maybe of the organization and some details in the chat so others can follow what you're doing. Thank you. Who would like to go next? There can be a silver offer for the second person.
What exactly is the
next.
silver? Okay.
Let me try to switch on my camera here. Can you see me? Good. So I'm actually on holidays in Indonesia. That's why I'm looking not very business-like. But so my name is Renat. I joined the Catalyst about 2 years ago through the Schwab Social Entrepreneurs Network, which has a cooperation with the Catalyst. I'm a Schwab social entrepreneur since about 12 years. I'm representing actually a number of companies and NGOs. I'm not a classical NGO person, even though I founded one, but all my work is in the space of climate action linked to impact. So the idea is to basically use the nexus of climate and impact. As many of you know, the people in those countries who have not contributed a lot to climate, the problem, are suffering the most. I don't have to go into details. We all know Sudan, Syria, all those countries. One of the reasons why people are having issues, having wars, is it simply doesn't rain anymore. They have droughts, floods, and all kind of consequences. So my main company is called South Pole. It's a developer of projects around the world. I'm also representing Empower, which is a developer of solar power in Africa. And I'm representing Illuminem, which is a platform, an information platform to talk about the issue. The reason why I'm very interested in this is I'm from Switzerland, from Zurich. I live in Zurich if I'm not on holidays. And I believe, as a Swiss, I think I can say that Switzerland is doing absolutely way too little given its position in the world. It's actually embarrassing how little this country is doing. It's basically sitting quietly when other people are solving problems, and that doesn't work. And I think this is an opportunity for my country to provide a strong voice, a strong answer, that here in Switzerland we do have people, NGOs, companies with a mission, with a vision, and we would like also to basically use this as a voice for change in this country to push the government and our people to be less lethargic and more proactive. So if I can contribute anything here, very happy. I'm super proud that this chapter is hopefully coming into place in Switzerland.
Thank you very much, Rena. Thanks a lot. So great. Maybe meanwhile I can read the chat. Arthur Wood.
Let me take the bronze, because I would definitely take bronze after the gold.
Okay,
the gold class
sorry,
Ashoka Fellow Karen Say, and the silver class Schwab. That's getting a bit political. I'm Arthur Wood. As a pompous Englishman, I live here in Geneva for the humility of the French and the humour of the Swiss. I'm interested in systemic change, and reflecting the comments of the last gentleman, I'm a firm believer that Switzerland could and should have a key role in terms of what I would call international Switzerland. The Swiss government historically has had a very hands-off view in terms of all the resource and capability that it has. It's seen itself as a neutral facilitator. I believe that's a major danger into today's world in terms of technology. All the databases, a lot of them are based here in Geneva, and I'm based at the Geneva Center for Security Policy, and I can see WHO on one side and WIPO on the other. There is, one has all global innovation, and the other has all global innovation around health, theoretically, but there's no link between the two. And the real challenge here in Geneva, I believe, is faced with technology. Is that data framing going to be open, interrogatable, public, or is it going to be closed, private, and commercial? And there is a big danger that in today's world, Switzerland itself could be even disintermediated by that process. So I believe there's a huge opportunity for Switzerland taking a much more dynamic role. And what we're doing at Equity for Humanity is how you create that technology and legal frameworks to create global collaboration. How do you create aggregation, not just within Switzerland, but within system solutions such as cities, such as water basins? And then how do you provide the legal and the financial tools to enable that collaboration to grow and to scale? And just to the point, the reason I'm here is I think Switzerland can play a major role in that. I don't see them doing that currently. I see it still very much in the silos, and it's my frustration with Catalyst as well. And what I'm about to say isn't necessarily mutually exclusive, but we talk about systems change. It's usually systems change in our silos, and we sometimes confuse that with systemic change. I personally believe there is a huge need for systemic change. Nothing wrong with system change in silos. I've seen lots of brilliant systems change in silos, but we tend to fund ourselves in those silos. They are highly inefficient funding structures. We have been sold a limited vision as to what capital markets can do. And I believe by creating aggregation as they did in the defense industries, and I've seen built it in the banking industry, you can essentially revolutionize the sector and move us out of our silos that we're currently operating. The fault, dear Brutus, lies not amongst the stars, it lies amongst ourselves, to quote Shakespeare.
Okay. Thank you very much, Arthur. Thanks a lot. We will talk more about the challenges part of the situation in Switzerland.
And I should say the first social entrepreneur that really twigged me on to the opportunities was actually a Turkish social entrepreneur who I met just after I joined Ashoka, who revitalized Lake Van. So I'm a firm believer in Turkish social entrepreneurs.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks a lot. Ashoka was well rooted in Turkey as well, and now we have lots of friends working on the systemic change part of the social entrepreneurship. So who wants to do the next? We have newcomers as well. I just want to read the message of Emily Roman Carnegie. Welcome, Emily. So she was sick, that's why turning the video, but we had a chance a couple of weeks ago, the Social Innovation Forum that she and her team held in University of Lausanne. It was a wonderful organization with many people. Many different parties contribute to the developments in the social innovation part. So I thank her personally for her efforts to make this forum together. It's an annual forum, so each and every year University of Lausanne holds this social innovation forum as well. And yes, we have, what else other than bronze, Camila?
Emerald, maybe. I'm happy to go next. Hi, everybody. My name is Nora Wilhelm. I'm originally from the German-speaking part of Switzerland, but I grew up in Geneva, lived in Bern for a while, and now I'm in Horgen, close to Zurich. So I'm only lacking Ticino, and then I'll have covered all the different language regions, except maybe if I want to learn Romansh as well on top of that. It's a pleasure to meet you all and also see some familiar faces here. My background was in youth work. I started pretty young, working in the European Youth Parliament. I was a UNESCO Young Leader, trying to engage other young people into the active shaping of our societies and our governments. And I transitioned about 8 years ago to the field of systems or systemic change, think we can debate the terminology. And I actually founded something in Switzerland in 2017 together with another, with a wide group of people called Collaboratio Helvetica, that was based on many of the same frustrations and intentions that I'm hearing here. And of course, also of the kind of legacy and vision of Catalyst 2030. So we definitely saw that Switzerland had this opinion of itself as such a sustainable and great place, when in reality our spillover effects are tremendous. And I definitely felt like we were not reaching our full potential in terms of what we could contribute globally, and also what really our responsibility was, considering our relative privilege. And so we created this organization as a wordplay also on, the name of Switzerland, Confederatio Helvetica.
Yep.
And we had Collaboratio Helvetica, and our pitch was a little bit, what if we could reactivate the cultural DNA of this country, which amongst other things is also that we were able to form a democracy across huge divides. So very complex challenges for the time, right? Like challenges between Catholics and Protestants, different language regions and so on. We were able to come together and solve those challenges, for better or for worse. Couldn't we solve today's complex challenges with the same approach, with dialogue, with coming together? So we focused on that, on cross-sector collaboration and on social innovation labs. So that's a little bit of context. And I left the organization at the end of last year, but I believe my colleague, former colleague Diana is here, an esteemed friend. And I'm now doing a PhD in the field at the University of Geneva and setting up a new container to try and support systems change leaders with the challenges that they're facing. I had the opportunity to work also with Emily when she was still director of Ashoka Switzerland. We worked on funding systems change as well. So that's definitely one key challenge that we're seeing everywhere, but also in Switzerland. So looking forward to the conversation today.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Nora. And who is next?
I think it would make sense if I just continue here. Thank you, Nora.
Yeah.
So I bumped into Nora 5 years ago, and this is when my life changed, when I got to know Collaboratio Helvetica, when I got to know also systemic change and all the work that we can do, because I found myself actually on the beach of Thailand, cleaning up the beach and being angry that this beach is so full of trash, I can't swim. And then I got angry at myself because I felt myself so helpless, and what can I do? And then I understood, okay, we really have to go down to the root causes of our challenges of today to really change something profoundly. So this is when I then joined Collaboratio Helvetica. And now I'm taking care of community and partnerships. So I'm really interested in the Swiss chapter to see what can emerge here together. I'm very interested in how networks can support each other in the work we are doing, because we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can do a lot together. We can find synergies together. And our current strategy also with Collaboratio is actually to go deeper into learning journeys for individuals and also for organizations. We do that now for the 5th time with the Catalyst Lab, which is a 9-month learning journey where we go down the U process of the Presencing Institute. And we see really there is a profound shift with these individuals that we are doing that. So we really believe that it needs deep scaling to really change something here. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you.
You're welcome, Diana. Thank you very much for sharing. Yes. Does anyone want to share? We have more information on the chat as well. From Matti, Straub, Fischer, 7 generation.
I can go next.
Yes.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Matti, and I live in Bern. And for the last 30 years, we've been working in the field of organizational development and training, and done that mostly with a sort of multi-sectorial approach to always bring different stakeholders from different interest groups together to solve issues that concern all of us. And we have today bases in a few other places. One of them is the Philippines and Camiguin Islands, Cape Town in South Africa, New Mexico in the United States, as well as Stockholm in Sweden. And our main focus is still on, you could say, supporting initiatives that want to create a better world. That can be in the field, for example, with regenerative tourism and entrepreneurship. We've been running the Chaos Pilot School for young entrepreneurs here in Bern, and with an external classroom in Cape Town for the last bit more than 10 years. And we work with some old tools that we call the Wisdom Council, and allowing all the voices to be heard in a process. And we've been a part of the Catalyst movements for several years now. Can't remember exactly. I think probably 4 or 5. And yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing the voices. I'm sometimes a bit skeptical when it comes to these gatherings, because I'm curious if we can kind of find a clear direction. I think sometimes when we're looking for wanting to change everything or the different fields, then sometimes it's not so easy to really kind of align on a few things that we can all agree on. And so that's what my curiosity here is all about. And if we can support that in any way, I gladly will. And I'm here also on behalf of several of my colleagues who couldn't join today, who've helped building up, Diego Sanchez, who helped build up Catalyst in Spain and Portugal. And so we're really looking forward to seeing what's next and what all of you sense or see is needed. And those are my words.
Thank you very much, Matthias. Thanks a lot. Thank you for joining and sending the greetings of your friends as well. Yes, who wants to do the next? I'm also checking the...
By the way, Yunus, we have one more introduction in the chat from Nora.
I was checking right now. Mikita, yeah, Celia. Career inflection points, looking to reorient towards social impact. I will be on the listening in today. Okay, Celia, thank you very much for joining. If no more volunteers, we can move slowly to the next session. Knowing each other is extremely important. I will just add one note here, because when I started looking for the social entrepreneurship ecosystem in Switzerland, I was like well established in Turkey. We know everyone over there, the organizations, foundations, companies, public state, whomever you call. But in Switzerland, the difficulty for me was like to reach a kind of umbrella association, like an association or a group of people or network, however you call it, who just brings people together and within the same vision, mission, and to know each other and to talk about the issues of the area of the social entrepreneurship. So that was the first difficulty for me. So I started searching through internet of different organizations, different people. I tried to connect them through LinkedIn, other social media organizations. I tried to reach them through their websites, info addresses, etc., etc. The surprising thing as a newcomer was the response rate was extremely low. And that was the first surprising thing for me, that when I tried to reach different people and organizations just to meet and exchange the ideas, etc., that triggered a bit the idea of we should build a kind of more platforms to know each other and to discuss about the ideas, which after some more months we came to this meeting. And I hope this will be the first step of a growing community to know each other. So thank you for that one. And I leave Mikita, because everyone probably knows about the Catalyst 2030 initiative in general, but maybe Mikita would describe us what a local chapter does if we decide to open one in Switzerland. Yes, Mikita.
Thank you, Yunus. Right. Well, actually, I think not all the people on this call are familiar with Catalyst. I'll start with the basics, right? And we'll get to the main course of our meeting. So get ready, because my speech will take at least 12 minutes. So use your cup of tea or, I don't know, coffee during this time. All right, so going directly to Catalyst 2030. Well, Catalyst is basically a movement, as it was mentioned by Yunus. It's a community, it's a group of members around the globe, actually, that are working in collaboration to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, of course, of the United Nations before 2030. And we know it's a very ambitious goal, but we are convinced that actually through collaboration and working with the key actors in the ecosystem of social entrepreneurship, we will be able to get closer to this goal. Next slide, please, Linda. Thank you. So, right. As for our history, Catalyst was started actually around 5 years ago, and it was launched in the Davos World Economic Forum, and it started as an organization as a community for social entrepreneurs and from social entrepreneurs. But it has actually grown to a community of not only social entrepreneurs, but also other key stakeholders, because we truly believe in systemic change, as it was mentioned today, and we cannot do any systemic change if we are not working in the ecosystem. So we also have in Catalyst members that are part of the governments, of businesses, of academia sector, of the funding ecosystem, corporates, for-profits, non-profits, and so on. And we actually think that collaboration is the key, all right? Is the key to achieve the change that we want to see in the world. And yes, today actually Catalyst has more than 2,800 organizations across the globe, and we have members in more than 134 states, and we are touching the lives of more than 2 billion people. And these 2,800 organizations, they are also represented with around 4,500 individuals inside these organizations. So it's a very global, it's a very dynamic and engaged community that is basically working in all the 17 SDGs in the spectrum. And Linda, may I ask you to switch a slide, please? Linda, can you hear me?
You switched it. It doesn't show.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
Oh, no. Sorry. Now it's fine. So, as I was mentioning, Catalyst was launched 5 years ago, and it started because basically, if we don't work together as a collaboration, we know that we won't be able to achieve the SDGs by 2092, and this is according to the Social Progress Index. And we identified actually as social entrepreneurs that there was these couple of major challenges, major gaps in the ecosystem of social entrepreneurship. And all this started actually with conversations with social entrepreneurs from Shoka, from Skull, from Schwab Foundation, from Econ Green, that they started thinking together and thinking there is a couple of things that we are not seeing in the ecosystem that actually allows us to move forward. And the one thing is, of course, the lack of resources and connections, as well as the disconnection between the funding models, as was said today, and the real needs of the sector. actually of the social actors. The third one is actually the minimal collaboration, and it's basically that we have incredible organizations doing great work on the ground, but maybe they are not working in collaboration. Maybe they don't even know each other, and also that's a problem. And also last element that is very important and that we are trying to move the needle, right, to change these realities, precisely the lack of voice in the process of decision making. So basically, social entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurs are not necessarily recognized, even in some countries, or in some part of the decision-making processes around the globe. So how can we actually, as a community, the network, work together and make a change in these dynamics? And this is actually why Catalyst started. This is precisely our mission and our vision to fill all of these gaps and to reply to this question. Next slide, please. Thank you. So as an organization, we ensure our solutions, they encapsulate like local knowledge and address specific community needs by establishing regional, country and city level chapters to facilitate and report on these initiatives. And each chapter is I would say, localized embodiment of the Catalyst global community, encompassing a spectrum of organizations from grassroots to international counterparts who are dedicated to serving these specific localities. So again, it's a group of members. The local chapter is a group of members in the same locality, in the same location, in the same geography that decides to get together and work in collaboration and basically create a community of human connections and execute specific initiatives or activities. It really depends on the members' priorities as well. So same as other things that we do in Catalyst, this is 100% a member-led initiative. And basically the members in a country or a region or a city, they get together and they define which topic they would like to push forward together. Next slide, please. Thank you. So from the secretariat, we usually come with the members in all these processes to support you and to guide you in anything you need in this creation of this chapter collaboration. So as you can see here in the map, we actually have today 7 regional chapters, including the Europe one. We have 7 country and city chapters in Europe, and we have different chapters that I will tell you about their experience later during today's session. But just for you to highlight, for this moment, we have Spain, Portugal, Slovenia, Croatia, Ukraine, Netherlands, and of course, London chapter. And we are also exploring some interesting conversations with other members in Greece and Balkan states. And all of these members just also keep in mind they have opportunity to be connected to any initiatives in their country or in the region or in the global activities as well. So it's not prohibited for you to start a chapter and only be a member of the Switzerland chapter and not to have an opportunity to communicate with other chapters or with Global Catalyst. Next slide, please, Linda. Thank you. So as I already mentioned, we assist our members in establishing country chapters within their countries or cities, and this enables closer and more productive collaboration with local organizations and promote joint projects. And the work of the chapter could be dedicated to the different topics, like the formation of chapter collaborations dedicated to like addressing specific issues. It could well, it could also be advocacy and working with the government related to policy making, for example, or it could simply be dedicated to bonding, to connection and well-being activities among members, or to the creation of learning opportunities, right? Or to participation on, I don't know, in international and local campaigns, for example, that we also support this, as well as fundraising for the chapter initiatives, because that's definitely a must for the social entrepreneurs. Next slide, please, Linda. Thank you. So I've already touched upon examples of what our regional and country chapters could do. And for instance, the Europe regional chapter, for this moment, it's focused mainly on advocacy for the social economy. So we have worked closely with the European Commission on the Social Economy Action Plan since 2020, right? And the Europe chapter hosted 2 sessions on the digital road to Mannheim in January and February 2021. And we also submitted a recommendations document for the social economy plan, which was launched in 2022. And for this specific moment, the chapter creates avenues for regional collaboration between members, between individual members, as well as organizations and chapters, local chapters in Europe, to create the bond and the connection between them and make them possibility of the resources that are available in Europe, provided by the specific, for example, EU institutions like the European Union and the other European networks to be accessible for our members. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so while the Europe regional chapter is focused primarily on advocacy and establishing connections with EU authorities, our local chapters concentrate on specific local activities. So, for example, the Slovenia chapter, it framed in the context of Slovenia's presidency of the Council of the European Union in the second semester of 2021, aimed to support the creation of the National Action Plan for Social Economy. This initiative succeeded, and the policy suggestions by the Slovenia chapter will be reflected in the National Action Plan to be presented by the Slovenian government this year. Additionally, in 2023, chapter members won a European Social Fund grant to create national competence centers for social innovation in Slovenia, in Italy, in Rome, in Greece, and Croatia. Next slide, please. Oh yeah, Ukraine. And another example of the chapter initiatives comes from the Ukraine chapter. So starting in 2023, chapter members, they initiated 4 joint projects in social economy, in health, as well as in food industry, fostering, I would say, partnerships and co-creation. And they also drafted critical grant applications, securing essential funding for chapter projects. And moreover, the chapter members, they co-created the first business accelerator program for small and medium-sized enterprises to lead the social economy change in Ukraine. And we as Global Catalyst, we as the Secretariat, we supported this accelerator program, accelerator idea. So we helped to fundraise, to draft the grant applications. We helped to do important connections within our network and outside of it. And we did the promotion of the project. And well, as a result of hard work of our members, they presented the Impact Business Accelerator at the Davos World Economic Forum this year. Oh, sorry, last year. So, just to summarize, as you can see, Catalyst allows its members to work in any field related to the SDGs, and we support initiatives of our members, and especially we support initiatives formulated and organized by the local chapters. Because when it's organized by a bigger group of members, we are able to invest our time, as they said, into supporting with in-kind support, as well as definitely looking for the grants applications and to help to get connections. So now you are equipped with basic knowledge about Catalyst and the work of the local chapters and a couple of the examples that I gave you. So I believe now it's the right time to give the floor back to Yunus and Camila to just handle the rest of this session.
Thank you very much, Mikita. So before going to Switzerland chapter discussions with you, we will talk. So we want to hear about your ideas mainly, and the needs, challenges, what would be the priorities. I was looking for a couple of data about the social entrepreneurship in Switzerland, and I have found two very important survey. That's why, in order to just to give you a couple of ideas before our discussion, we can smoothly view those slides. One is SDGs. If we think that the beginning of the presentation, Mikita reminded us that we will not catch the timeline of the SDGs. And one of the reasons is the current capitalist system, the dominant system, is less reluctant to follow the targets over there. And for me, it's like a kind of washing going on the SDGs as well. And this slide shows us that according to the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor last year, and the countries, Switzerland is with the red one on the level A, which means rich countries. So their tendency to follow on the SDGs. More entrepreneurs focus on SDGs, or they include the SDGs into their business plans, but still we are in the 50% of the overall ratio as Switzerland. As compared to the level A countries, the rich countries, Switzerland looks in the middle. So this is the overall entrepreneurial area who wants to follow and focus more on the SDG picture. When we comes to the social entrepreneurship, we have, thanks Schwab Foundation, that has done this collection of surveys. Let's say they collected the whole surveys done between 2013 and 2023, so that it was an overview of like more than 80 countries to understand better, which sums up, although there are lots of methodological issues, etc., but let's try to understand the essence of the findings, which is this social entrepreneurship globally creates 200 million jobs around the world. We have around 10 million social enterprises, 2 trillion in revenue, $2 trillion, which shows us that for the last 20 years, we came a long way to create this environment. But if you see in the big economy of these numbers, we are just still in the 2 or 3% of the overall economy or economic activities, which shows us that social entrepreneurship is just in the 2 or 3% of the overall economic activities in the globe, which shows us that we should be moving forward very fast. When we have lots of issues globally, again, this report shows us that finance, Arthur was telling earlier that access to finance is very critical for the social entrepreneurs. And we have lots of issues in terms of public awareness. Still, many people, they don't know about what is social entrepreneurship, social economy, what is purpose-driven entrepreneurship. That kind of concepts in general that we are currently working a lot and hard on it is not, unfortunately, aware by the public in general. This, of course, if the awareness is low in public, which takes us a direct link to the public authorities that taking social entrepreneurs seriously or not when they are in the policy-making process. And in Europe, another research will be done by Euclid Network, and Sense here, I guess, contributed to this data is European Enterprise Social Monitor. It's again the awareness of social entrepreneurship or poor understanding among the general public is the first output of this research. And the lobby, a weak lobby for social entrepreneurship again, seems to be the greatest challenge in terms of Europe. And if we look at, we can move to the next one, Linda. Yeah, we see that some of our friends are here. We see quite a lot of good numbers of organizations, very diverse, and just talking less to each other. In Switzerland, we have Impact Hub, Sensuis, SAFE, and lots of chambers of social solidarity economy in Geneva, Lausanne, Neuchâtel. And we have APRES, like we have alternative banks for finance and many other institutions. But the communication and the coordination and the collaboration between them should be improved in a way. And yeah, if we look at this, one of these monitors, European Enterprise Social Monitor, the profile in Switzerland is looks a bit diverse as compared to Europe. For instance, the number of companies who are in the early implementation or growth period is 41%. Another 31% is the late implementation and the growth period. So we have many companies in Switzerland, but still in the scale-up period of their economic growth. And the formation, sorry, just one back, yeah. We have 158 different legal form used by social entrepreneurs in Europe. In Switzerland, it should be 6 or 8, and the main forms are this joint stock companies, associations, or limited liability companies. So legal form is another issue that addressing the legal recognition of the social entrepreneurship, which at the end of the story gives an area of growth to social entrepreneurs. And we have also some findings related, how their interaction with the beneficiaries or staff in decision-making process. This was one of the interesting findings for me for Switzerland. On the left-hand side, the proportion of enterprises with a very high involvement of beneficiaries in decision-making, which means that you are talking to your customers, clients, partners when you are getting your decisions in the social economy. Switzerland is in Europe is one of the less proportion country as compared to ISM average, which is 14%, whereas in Switzerland it's only 7%. So 7% of the social entrepreneurs tells in Switzerland that they are asking beneficiaries when they give some decisions, and this is also low, especially when they are asking to their staff as well. In Switzerland, you see the ratio is 39%, so it's on the a bit average of ISM, but when this participatory process in the decision making for the social entrepreneurs are extremely critical. And another approach is the income, the main source of income. So social entrepreneurs should be working with different parties. So trading with profit-oriented companies, of course. And in Switzerland, it's like 42%. So they are interacting with the for-profit environment. And the other social entrepreneurs is like 10%. So the interaction between social entrepreneur networks is around 10%. And the public is the other source of the main income. And if we have, where did you get this income from, trading or non-trading activities? Because funding is the critical problem. And we know from globally that social entrepreneurs have lots of problems in terms of funding, and we wish them to be more sustainable financially by trading or by producing and less depending on the funds or donations, etc. And very good sign for Switzerland here that 80% of the social entrepreneurs in Switzerland declare that their income is coming from trading, and the 20% is coming from non-trading, which is basically the donations or the public funds available. And the political support, which is critical again as well, that whether in your country the social entrepreneurship is supported politically, Switzerland again thinks that the support from political system is very, very low in their country. The entrepreneurs think in that way. This was 2022 numbers. I guess the data is collected in 2021 as well. Yes. So we have a brief overview of the available data about Switzerland, but today the main objective is talk to you and listen to you. How do you see the challenges in Switzerland as social entrepreneurs, or the networks working with social entrepreneurs? So we would like to open the discussion again to the flow and ask you about the challenges and the needs first. Then we can, in the second part, we will talk about the priorities as well. So again, as we did in the previous part, volunteers might start and we can discuss on the challenges of Swiss social entrepreneurs. Arthur, I was just thinking about you, then you put your camera on. So maybe you might want to start as well.
I don't particularly like starting, but since you've suggested, Yunus.
Yeah. I
have been in this sector nearly 20 years. When I joined this sector, there were over 66 to 100 million people that had the same amount of wealth as the bottom 3 billion. By 2013, that figure was down to 66,000 today. That's some between 6 and 20. If I look at the SDGs when they were kicked off in 2015, it was estimated that we needed about 3% of GDP to mobilize. Our inability to deliver that, plus obviously climate becoming an increasing problem, that figure is now 8%. In climate itself, we are already at 1.5, with investment to take us to 2.5. All this is after, if I put $1 trillion for impact investment, but if this is after, as a sector, if we add up all the expenditures of the UN, governments, impact investment, and I'm ignoring ESG here, and let me leave that can of worms aside, we have spent $4 trillion since 2015. So having spent $4.5 trillion, $4 trillion since 2015, we have gone back on the SDGs, we have gone back on climate, and we've gone back in inequality. It is systemic failure in a huge scale. And what is demonstrably true is that, and blended value and venture capital and grant, I won't bore you, quite simply cannot get us there. So when I see us as a community saying, well, why don't we try and influence government to give us more money? The reality is that that money is declining, and it will decline further because in Western countries you have huge unfunded pension liabilities and health liabilities. Same with China as well, with related. So the main sources of state capital are drying up in the context of aging populations that have happened in the last 34 years that need to be addressed. So the only way we can actually get to the SDGs is actually by mobilizing the private sector, and by mobilizing the private sector on our ground rules, ensuring that our three communities, the social entrepreneurs, the social intermediaries, and the communities, are hardwired into that relationship. And if you actually look at it through the prism, and this is where I think as a community we have failed to show boldness. If you actually look at it through the prism of where is the money, there is 2 trillion that sits on the balance sheets of global foundations. And foundations align only 5% of that capital for the most part. There are notable exceptions. 5% of that capital. So 95% of their balance sheet is unaligned and unleveraged and actually associated with the current economic system. Faiths are the 3rd largest global investor in the world. Again, if you look what happens in Islamic financing, it is way in front of what happens in a lot of Western financing. So, you know, there's $5 trillion that sits there. If you look at the structural inefficiency of the sector, if we would actually show planning and giving the tools to the community, you would, according to the World Bank, take 35% of the cost out of the SDGs. Well, that brings it down to 4% roughly of global GDP. If you look at externalities, the pricing of future benefit that comes with social entrepreneurs collaborating together, again, that is measured in the hundreds of billions, trillions calculated by McKinsey and Accenture. If you look at the opportunities of the blue carbon market, $2 trillion. The issue is not money. Money is there if you actually go to the source of the source of it, which is what they teach you in banking on day one. And we continue to play the game of chasing the foundations for their 5% in a zero-sum game, thinking that's going to change. We continue to think to accept the mantra about blended value models in silos, when actually if we did it at a systemic level, we could do it at 70% less and actually a 20% return. There are a range of these types of models out there. This is about change management. This is not just about innovation. It is about where social entrepreneurs fit as the R&D of society and benefit from the upscaling and from their collaboration. And to do that requires robust change in how we think about, we use technology, ironically in exactly the same way as is used in the defense industry and the finance sector, and move away from our national and issue silos to actually collaborating and scaling. And if we can collaborate and scale together, and this is the opportunity of Switzerland because the data is here and the framing is here, if we could actually show the political willingness to think about how we collaborate and scale with legal and technology innovation, then we actually move these models to mechanisms where social entrepreneurship can get replicated to lots of other locations. They don't have to rebuild the entire infrastructure themselves, one by one, silo by silo, issue by issue, which is my experience of the last 25 years. Brilliant social entrepreneurships. I've seen them like Lake Van solve problems that government cannot solve and the private sector cannot solve on their own. But the number of entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs that I see collaborate and work together, even on the same value chain, is limited, to be blunt. And the number of social entrepreneurs scale is limited.
Interrupt because I want to elaborate a bit on this collaboration part. How do you see the collaboration culture in Switzerland?
Well, there is, I'll give you an example. There is technology, and I've witted on about this at Catalyst before. There is new technology that was created by CERN in the building blocks of the universe. You can look at it under detangle or IDE4.ch. which enable, and CERN developed this to take a look at the building blocks of the universe. There is one thing more complex than social system, that's the building blocks of the universe. It can handle literally millions of pieces of data and text. Secondly, it's been designed so that it can be used by social entrepreneurs and non-tech specialists. What that enables you to do is to flip a metrics mechanism which is multiplying faster than rabbits on Viagra at the moment, to doing exactly what the revolution of Bloomberg did in finance, to allow these various data sets to be married and then white labeled and focused down to your individual issue. It marries that process. That is an opportunity we have here in Switzerland because the data frames are here, and that technology has actually been built here within the last 18 months and done in a way that that technology is hardwired in the interest of social entrepreneurs. So the technology tools are there. There are social entrepreneurs in Catalyst, for example, like Frederick Geltung, that have done feedback loops. The social progress imperative was mentioned earlier before, where you look across the whole value chain. When you make an intervention, it says, now you marry those three together, you end up with a data frame that is holistic, open, competitive, comparative, predictive. If you want to understand the role Switzerland could play with the data, then that's pretty clear in my mind about utilizing the data phrases there to set the agenda in terms of how we empower social entrepreneurs in the world to actually understand and collaborate and work together. That's what, that's to give you a concrete example. There's legal innovation, and I won't bore you with it, that goes with it. But that's, the first move in any of these things, if you want to engage finance and you want to, is to control your own data in your own agenda in a way that you're not fed and driven by the agenda either of business or IT, or indeed the European Union for that matter.
Exactly. Thank you very much. Extremely critical, actually. Camila, maybe you want to share your experience on that front as well as a foundation, because we talked about that there are different forms of organizations for social entrepreneurs. You're about to build and building one as a foundation. So how do you see the challenges from an NGO perspective rather than the entrepreneurship side?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for all the answers. I will be very quick because I'm more interested in what others have to say. But from my perception in Switzerland, in terms of like legal entities, social entrepreneurship does not really exist per se. So you can create your association, you can create your company, but then so there are different terminologies, but there's, from what I can see, maybe someone who knows more could help me out with this. That social entrepreneurship does not really exist as per se. You have to kind of combine it with something else, and so as a terminology in Switzerland is pretty new. So is it really like you do it because you want the profit, or you do it because you want to help someone? And how do you measure how much profit can you make, and what is the basis of your organization as on a ground basis, on receiving like money from benefits, so from beneficiaries? So it's a little bit vague. So this is one side, and another side in terms of network and being surrounded with people who can give you a support. I think that Impact Hub is one of the good examples that exists in Switzerland, and I'm part of Impact Hub Geneva, and it's like it's a very strong community that gives support to young startups and to raising associations, and so I think that on one side there is a challenge in terms of raising funds, and how do you set up yourself on a legal basis, and like are you fitting within the company, or are you fitting as a charity? So of course then you have to realize how you measure your budget and from where do you get funds. So this is on one side, but on the other side, in terms of finding a community, I wouldn't say it's such a. I mean, within the Impact Hub, you can have this community, for example, for now. But of course, it's something that is growing. So I think that the challenge for me, it's more on the legal side at this moment.
So the country is very diverse from my perspective, of course. Then the regional differences and cultural differences, language differences, make it even more diverse. I will just give a word to Arthur, but before just I want to ask if Nora or Diana want to contribute. I see the liveliness of the German part through especially the sense organization. What about your experience over there, if you want to share? And meanwhile, Arthur, you can comment on that one.
I'll wait till they comment.
Okay, I'm just
Yeah.
yeah. Nora,
I can happy
Arthur
to share
will
something.
Yeah.
I think like some of the biggest issues that I see still in the field, and I'm just actually doing now a process of interviewing like change makers from different fields for a new project that I'm doing, and it's just like, you know, all this data is coming in on like what are people experiencing in Switzerland. And one of the biggest things that people mention is just how dispersed everything is, like how, you know, like there is a lot of duplication, there is not so much synergy, not so much collaboration, not so many opportunities to really build collaborations. And I think this ties into the other very big challenge that people keep mentioning, which is the funding question, also has been mentioned here, right? Just how can we get funding, especially the more you try to work towards a systemic approach, the harder it becomes to get funding in the Swiss context, and I believe pretty much everywhere, right? And so as all these organizations are kind of in the NGO starvation cycle or whatever kind of dynamic that they're caught in, they would like to collaborate, you know, there's an intention of collaboration. I think the values are there, but then everyone is pretty burnt out, right? Like everyone is pretty strapped. Everyone has so much to do with their own projects and so on, that then we find ourselves in this loop of like, oh, we should collaborate. Yeah, but we actually don't have the time. And nobody also pays us to begin to collaborate together, right? You may only obtain funding if you do create a new project, if you do end up, right? And then apply for funding, and that can take forever. And no foundation is just funding that part. And I think this is something, if Catalyst 2030 would be able to leverage its name and reputation to just have a funding pot where you can apply for an emergent collaboration, where you can say, hey, we are this organization, and that organization. We would like, you know, 2 months, over 2 months, we will meet for 3 days. We will really try to figure out how to synergize, how to, you know, enhance our work, mutually like improving it, or maybe doing something new together, but not necessarily. And if that could be funded, so I feel like, you know, in leveraging the brand and leveraging the funding that is coming into Catalyst 2030, would there be a way, not just for Switzerland, but for other places too, to channel these things? That's something that's coming up for me as an idea, right?
Yeah, that is extremely important actually, because at the beginning phase of the your entrepreneurship, like it can be foundation or company, it doesn't matter. The whole focus of the founders are, of course, to build their idea. That's why any additional collaboration activities take too much time. If it takes too much time, there will be less tendency to join and collaborate. That is a kind of trade-off, unfortunately, of that kind of organizations, but very good point. Actually, when we talked lots of friends to join this meeting as well, they had the same issue of very heavy agendas and not contributing enough as well. Thank you very much, Nora. Thank you for the sharing. Yes, Arthur, sorry.
I completely agree with what Nora has said and Camilla said before. The fundamental question in here, in these collaborations or any of these things, and by collaboration, I mean not just between social entrepreneurs, I mean with the private sector as well and with government, is how do you hardwire the social mission into that relationship? One of the errors we make in our sector is that we assume for every unitary dollar you put in, you get a unitary return out and a unitary social impact out of that. And that's the way we're funded within grant mechanisms and to some extent within VC. Although we all intuitively recognize that these issues are interrelated. So we are funded to operate within silos. The way impact investment has gone is to reinforce that, because we have a GP, what's called a general partner, limited partner structure, where the GP is actually the center of that funding structure, subcontracting on a bilateral process down to the social entrepreneurs. Well, firstly, that's pretty inefficient in the scheme of things at a systems level. So if you actually want, we all use the word collaboration, and this is exactly to Nora's point, unless there is a legal mechanism in place which reflects that each of us can take a different or indeed differing economic social return, you end up in a mechanism basically putting the GP as the principal. And that is usually a for-profit GP in the principle. So it's going to screw your social mission probably.
Yeah.
I worked with regulators, charity and finance in both the US and the UK, and we've come up with a structure that takes the LLC, LLP structure and hardwires a social mission into that. That already integrates into global tax codes. It allows you to create a mechanism where each stakeholder can take a different or indeed differing economic social return. And this is what happens in the commercial world. You can cut and dice financial return. You can also cut and dice social economic return in the same way with the same structure. That also happens to be the same structure that is used in finance for the creative structured product. And this gets to your incentive point, I think, Nora or Camilla, you made, where you can share out equity with each of the individual stakeholders, and the three social stakeholders each own an equity stake in the upscaling of that mechanism. So unless you actually have, and this exactly gets to that point, now there are a number of legal mechanisms. One is, what is the most effective for a startup in its silo, which is quite rightly a separate debate, and how do you improve that, and what's the tax policies you've got in place to improve that. Foundations are purely one wrapper in the scheme of things. How can one be innovative about that? But there's a second debate, which is how do you create that collaboration, large-scale collaboration, which then enables you to bring capital in. Otherwise, we're stuck in VC models. And if we're stuck in VC models, we're only talking about 2% of the capital markets, effectively. You have to get to bonds and equities. You have to talk about in $100 million plus. And to do that, you've got to say, well, how do we create collaborations of social entrepreneurs with other society stakeholders to move to that frame? So the good news is that that technology and legal framework exists, because that technology framework I witted on about is the mirror of the legal capability to actually give granular value to your participation within a systems approach. But we're stuck in our silos and talking about silos as opposed to actually thinking about what is the real economic opportunity of actually collaborating in scale. And I feel it's an entire debate.
I have seen a circle in your conversation from silo to silo approach. Very, very nice.
Well, we have built a sector that is the exact opposite of what they teach you in business. Very high marginal cost, very low marginal revenue, and very few annuity models.
Okay. So Emily is asking for a word. Hi, Emily.
Yeah, hi. I still won't turn on my camera, but I
No
thought
problem.
I needed to.
I'm sorry.
I wanted to share a few thoughts, and I mean, I second a lot of what's been said about, the cultural splits, linguistic splits that make things harder, the issues related to the lack of legal frameworks, the issues around funding, and about that point, the issue on funding, there is this lack of awareness of funders on the needs, the particularities of what social enterprises require. And there is a lot of work to be done there. We had started this work with Nora and Collaboratio Helvetica when I was with Ashoka, as Nora mentioned. Swiss foundations took it over to some extent, but there is still a lot more to do there. There is a lot to start to do with banks and investors and impact investors, and also to create the adapted funding mechanisms, patient capital, blended mechanisms, mixing philanthropy and loans, and so on. That could be done, and also a lack of understanding of social entrepreneurship, social innovation in political arenas, in governments. And of course, that has connections to the lack of legal status, legal framework around these activities.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll share one more thing that, I mean, I know that a coalition of actors has been doing a lot of work there. Sense and Ashoka and Après and probably Collaboratio. I don't know who else is in this group, but I know there's things going on. So I would encourage you as initiators of Catalyst maybe to connect and check in on that.
Yeah.
And just to share that as in the process of building a strategy for the University of Lausanne around social innovation, I spoke to a number of social innovators and actors of the ecosystem, and a couple of them were from the federal government, federal administration, sharing some interesting insights that finally it seems that they're waking up.
Yeah.
The State Secretariat for Innovation and the InnoSuisse, the Agency for Innovation Promotion, are discussing definitions, are agreeing on definitions right now on social innovation, and are discussing the need of creating another agency specialized in supporting social innovation, realizing their shortcomings and the fact that current funding mechanisms are not suited. And it was interesting to hear from Swiss, senior representatives that they want to attract social innovation projects, but they really struggle to at the moment. And they also recognize the fact that their jury don't have the expertise to evaluate such projects.
Yeah.
So things
Exactly.
are changing, and I think things are gonna likely to happen in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Sorry, can I sound bolshy here? Let's just, if we're making an argument for the innovation industry, that's great, and I'm fully supportive of it. But let's take the word 2030 out of what we're saying. There is 0.5% subsidy inside all ODI. 0.37 actually, between 0.5 and 0.37. Assuming they could all agree on a blended value structure, just to take one thing, assuming they could all agree, you would have, now the problem is 8%, you would have to leverage that capital 16 times. Government, DFIs, MDIs are getting 0.7 to 1.14. So when you hear people sitting in Geneva from large DFIs, governments, G7, saying, we're almost there, they are being economical with the truth about the amount of capital. They are being economical with the truth about the amount of leverage they can get. It was Clinton who said many years ago, the problems of the 20th century have been solved by someone somewhere. The challenge of the 21st century is how we scale it. There is innovation, brilliant innovation. Although I saw it at Ashoka when I worked there. I'm a passionate believer in it. I have seen it all over Catalyst. But unless we actually realize that VC grant and blended value is not going to get us there, and just talking about innovation and how we fund our silos is not going to get us there. So I'm sorry to be blunt and rude here. If we want to just make a strategy for how we fund social innovation inside Switzerland, that's great and fine. But let's not have the word 2030 in there, and let's not talk about systems change, because the mathematics is absolutely black and bloody white in terms of the fact that under the current system, we are not going to get anywhere close to it.
Okay, thank you
I'll
very
stop
much.
sounding religious now.
No, Linda moved to the last session because we are running a bit out of time. So I would like to ask as a last question with Emily as well, that if there is going to be a Switzerland chapter under the network of Catalyst 2030, what should be the priorities of this chapter? because, you know, there are different actors already. Emily is like, she has two hats as far as I know, from ex-Ashoka contributor, plus now with the academy in the University of Lausanne. So there are different actors currently. We all accept that the impact should be more, but the current situation is like that in Switzerland. So if there is going to be a new chapter or new initiative like that, what should be the priority? Like, what would you do if you would making a kind of action plan? I'm not talking about the big like ideas, but very small and concrete steps to help people, to help social entrepreneurs in Switzerland as a kind of benefit. What would you suggest? Emily, if you are there, maybe we can start with you, then Arthur as well. We have Diana in the group if she wants to contribute.
Yeah, I mean, I guess thanks, Yunus. I think I mean it was my last points was kind of mixing the two, the needs and the priorities, and I mean there are currently efforts on creating a legal framework for social enterprises. That, I mean, I think there were two efforts in parallel, and one of them failed, and one of the main actors of the second one is not very optimistic about the how it's gonna be received.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a dead end, or at least maybe it's too early, or it's not it's not mature enough to go there. So perhaps not there. But I mean, funding and awareness raising, you know, trying to agree on common terms, on common concepts to make sure that, and also connect to the different sides of the country, the different linguistic regions, would be quite key.
Okay.
And I mean, follow this conversation and what's going on at the federal level with the State Secretariat and the Innovation Agency.
Yeah. And within this diverse backgrounds of the country, it's quite difficult to achieve something on the national level that we all know, I guess, or focusing on more regional priorities. I was thinking that the sense is quite active in the German part, but maybe like French-speaking part, there is lots of organizations, but is there a kind of need to kind of umbrella organization just to provide network for each and every of them? And that would be my question, because if there is such a need, maybe the first priority of this this chapter could be bring together and start discussing all the relevant parties in the French-speaking part. What do you think?
I mean, my understanding is that Après is kind of playing this role.
Yeah.
And is the interlocutor of sense in the French-speaking parts. And I mean, our German-speaking friends being the majority, it would make sense to start there. It's there that you need to make a shift if you want, you know, to have an impact or a strategy, because of that linguistic split and how decentralized the country is, could be to go through the private sector to have big companies evolve and move towards a better understanding of what we're trying to achieve and their role in this effort. And then the political will follow, hopefully.
Well, I
Thank
think
you very much. Yes, Arthur.
I really think it depends how ambitious you want to be. I mean, you know, ask yourself, why is Switzerland such a successful nation state? You know, because it lies at these very fault lines of language, culture, and religion. And if you compare it to the Balkans, who also do the same, you understand. You have to ask why the Swiss were successful. They were successful because they had an economic interest in collaborating in controlling the mountain passes. There was an economic driver. that drove it together. They didn't. If you take it from the side of the fragmentation and then try to put the economic case on it, you're going the Balkan route as opposed to the route that Switzerland originally took, which was let's go from the economic principle for their collaboration. And in some senses, it's the same argument here. You know, either you can look at this just through the prism of Switzerland, and how do you, fragment it further in terms. The reality is that the chair of UBS, the CEO of UBS, felt very happy in standing up at the Geneva building bridges. I don't know how many of you attended and listened to his speech, and said, well, we don't think 2030 is important, 2050, and it's not really us that should be driving this process. It should be our clients. Ergo, he just washed his hands of anybody that says, well, look what happens 25 years down the road, ergo, when I've retired, has no accountability for it all in the scheme of things.
Yeah.
So to expect that, but if you flip it the other way and say, what is the role of international Switzerland, which is the repository of all humanitarian repository data, which is the community that we have here in Geneva, and how can we inject the social entrepreneurial community into those distribution chains? How can we find financial mechanisms? Then you're speaking the language of the Swiss in terms of actually not going beyond VC and looking at other models that allow you to create aggregation, because that aggregation in some senses has been created here in Geneva. Then you have a different conversation. So I think it's a real question about, do you want to look at this just through the prism of domestic Switzerland, and what's domestic Switzerland going to come in terms of social entrepreneurship? Or is there a larger opportunity? And I firmly believe there is, in terms of technology that's been developed here in Geneva, the fact that the networks are here and the frameworks are here, and ask ourselves a more robust question. How do we influence international Switzerland in terms of injecting the role of social entrepreneurship? I mean, there's those two communities and two agendas in there.
Yeah.
Are you just talking Switzerland, or are you talking the role Switzerland does perform as an international nexus for development?
Okay, very valid question. Yes, final remarks then for Nora and Diana. So if you have some last words for the chapter, maybe we can get it, or then Mikita will probably have a kind of roadmap. If there is going to be a Swiss chapter, what would be the next steps? Then we can close afterwards. Yes, Nora, I guess.
Yeah, thank you. Not much. I think I said kind of my main, concerns and input. I think the more we can build on what already exists would be wonderful. So maybe like really mapping what other network community organizations already exist, and is it maybe like a chapter that emerges from the collaboration of those networks? So, something like that, like what is synergetic, what is possible here? And I think I'm really just also wondering, like, what I'm not clear on is, like, in terms of scope and effort, right? Is there funding once you create that comes in? Is there an ambition to find independent funding for whatever is going to happen here? Kind of those ramifications, right? And how realistic is that? But I think very interesting conversation today, many inputs, many different opportunities, and as usually a matter of prioritizing and focusing, right?
Thank you very much. I fully agree, because when we started talking about this meeting, it was my first question. So there are different parties. Why do we need a new one? So what is the real need if there are already different institutions, organizations, people working on the same mission? That is why it's important to talk if there is any need. Otherwise, of course, the duplication of the efforts, the same efforts, is very unnecessary. Then I guess Catalyst 2030 organization again will evaluate the different needs based on this. Mikita, you want to have?
Yeah, firstly, I just wanted to comment on Nora's Nora's comment, sorry for tautology. So actually concerning the funding, as I said earlier today, Catalyst is not itself a funding organization, so we don't provide direct funding, right? But once a chapter is emerged, once a chapter is launched, and they have a specific project that members are collaborating on inside the chapter, we help with all our support, like to find connections with funders. We do the direct connections. We also help with the application for specific funding opportunities. We look for these funding opportunities for the chapters. So we do all of this support, except for providing direct funding, of course.
Yeah. Perfect. So maybe a few words. Sorry.
Maybe if I may just add something, for me, it's also,
Go
it
ahead.
comes down, yeah, it comes down also to ownership. Because we have been running an event end of March where it came to financing and impact and collaboration amongst different organizations in Switzerland and how we can do that. And there were NGOs present, startups, and as well foundations. And I mean, everybody was like, okay, what do we get out of this meeting at the end? So we tried to make a follow-up with everyone, but then not everybody replies to the follow-up. So it comes, I think, a lot to ownership. And as Nora has also mentioned, these are mostly not paid positions or like paid work that we are doing when it comes to networking and supporting each other. So I wonder if there is like a possibility to kind of co-found a vessel together and then also take the ownership there, like really finding out who is like doing what and taking the responsibility for what, because otherwise it might dissolve into something and everybody thinks the other one is doing it. So that's just my learning from that event as well.
Okay. Very good idea. We can discuss afterwards about this one, I guess. And yeah, thank you very much for sharing this, Diana. Yes, Mikita, you want to add something on the next
Just
step?
a couple of points, definitely. I just wanted to say that to launch a local chapter in Catalyst, we have to undergo 2 phases, the pre-launch phase and post-launch phase. I'm not going to tell you information about the post-launch because we are not there yet. But as for the pre-launch phase, the first thing that we did already, we initiated the conversation with a couple of members who are interested in taking the responsibility to launch the chapter and to be the leaders, at least for the first time of the formation of the group, initial group. So we had the conversation with Yunus, with Camilla, and we then agreed to get to the stage 2, to the open discussion with members, existing members of Catalyst who are based in Switzerland. That's why we had this conversation today, right, to discuss whether there is an interest that lays there within the membership in Switzerland, whether you as our members are interested in collaborating in the chapter formation, and what would be the, if not the priorities, then at least the needs of you as our members and challenges that you would like to address through the chapter formation. So we had it. Now we just need to agree whether we want to form the central group, the core group of members who would be interested in continuing the conversation, in conducting the further exercise of mapping other networks, in connecting with these networks, just in order to find out whether they have already something similar in place, and not in order not to replicate our efforts and maybe just to join already existing chapter, right? And then it would be also important for us to have at least a couple more meetings to agree on the definition of the initial objectives of the chapter, priorities and roles, because we need definitely to distribute the roles, because Camilla and Yunus, they are not able to handle all the things on their own. So we'll definitely need in the future to have the distribution of roles among all the members of the core group of the chapter. And of course, we will then be in the high need to do the strategic planning, right, for the action plan for the chapter. And then we will only then get to the official launch after we undergo all of these procedures.
Perfect. So I suggest we have recorded this event and we took lots of notes. We will compile all of them with the discussions, and we will share as a separate email afterwards with you the summary of these discussions. In that email message, I suggest, Mikita, that we can ask the participants, because some of them already left the meeting, so that we can ask them in that email message that they would be volunteer to contribute to the chapter or not, and depending on the answers coming from, we can decide on the next step. What do you think?
Yeah, if I may, my suggestion would be to have a short poll, not during this meeting, but we'll send it in our follow-up email, right? So with simple couple of questions, whether you want to be part of the chapter, and are you ready to contribute at least a couple of hours per month?
Okay. Perfect. Thank you very much. Any last words, Arthur, Diana, you want to add something before closing officially? Camila?
Yes, thank you everyone for your contributions and for sharing your point of view. I guess what I also wanted to say is that do not take it very, very seriously in the terms of like being afraid that someone would want much more from me, but just more of saying, okay, does it work? Do I fit here or not? And maybe reflecting on what are your personal expectations from it and your organization expectations, but also like what are your resources in terms of your time, your efforts, and your willingness to contribute, because of course we all do it on a voluntarily basis, with hoping that it will boost our impact and maybe bring maybe a positivity in what we want to do. But yet not to put too much pressure on you, because we don't want to sound it now, you all kind of captured and that's it. So just to reflect on your own, if it's something that you feel that fits you and that you could contribute and that it could be fruitful for you. But other than that, I think it was a very, very valuable conversation, and it seems like there are some topics that are very delicate, and we all share some kind of frustration towards them in terms of how social entrepreneurship looks like right now in Switzerland. But yeah, of course, I had a feeling since for many years that I'm doing some mentoring for NGOs in Geneva. And it seems like everyone is treating NGOs and social entrepreneurship like idealists, and that, okay, you have your mission, you have your passion, so now you can do whatever for free, and we don't have to give you any money for it because you're already fulfilled with the passion you have for what you're doing. And unfortunately, it's the case for many organizations that I work with. So yeah, let's see what we can do, and I hope that you, as Diana said, some people don't follow up. I hope I hope it will not happen here, and that we can work some challenges through together. So thanks everyone for coming, and yes, let's spread the word and see what we can do together.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Arthur, any last word or? Okay. Emily, thank you very much. Diana, Nora.